Millionaire returns after a year-long business trip, shocked to find his wife holding twins. Before we dive into today's emotional story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications bell, so you never miss the unforgettable lessons in these powerful tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. Now, imagine a millionaire who returns home after a year-long business trip, his heart longing for his wife, only to be left speechless when he finds her cradling not one, but two newborn babies. What he discovers next will change everything. The private jet touched down just after dawn, its wheels kissing the runway with a soft screech. Inside the cabin, Ethan Montgomery leaned back in his leather seat, exhaustion lining his handsome features. At 38, Ethan was the CEO of Montgomery Enterprises, a man who had built his fortune from relentless drive, sharp instincts, and an ability to close deals others thought impossible. But this past year had tested even him. A string of acquisitions in Asia had demanded his constant presence overseas. 12 months of boardrooms, negotiations, and sleepless nights spent in luxury hotels that felt more like cages. He had achieved what he set out to do, expanding his empire, but at a cost. The cost was home. Ethan hadn't seen his wife, Sophia, in nearly a year. They had spoken through video calls, exchanged messages, and written letters during the rare quiet nights. But distance had a way of creating cracks, even in the strongest of marriages. He carried a constant ache in his chest, the memory of her soft laughter, the way her dark curls framed her gentle face, the warmth of her hand entwined with his. As the jet taxied to a stop, Ethan's thoughts burned with anticipation. He was done chasing numbers and contracts. All he wanted now was to step through the front door of his mansion, wrap Sophia in his arms, and whisper all the apologies his pride had delayed. "Home," he murmured under his breath. "I'm finally home." Meanwhile, across the city, Sophia sat in the nursery she had decorated alone. The pale yellow walls glowed with morning sunlight, casting a soft light over the two bassinets positioned side by side. Inside, two infants stirred, their tiny fists curling as they whimpered for their mother's attention. Sophia lifted the first baby, a boy with a tuft of dark hair, and cradled him gently. The second, a girl with the same button nose, kicked her little legs in protest until Sophia leaned over to soothe her too. Her heart swelled with love every time she looked at them. Daniel and Lily. Her twins. Her miracle. But with love came fear. Ethan had no idea. How could he? She had discovered her pregnancy only weeks after he left for Asia. At first, she thought about telling him immediately, but every call had been filled with static, interruptions, or the weight of his stress. She wanted to share the news face to face, to see his eyes when she told him he was going to be a father. Then the pregnancy grew complicated. Sophia endured morning sickness, hospital visits, and long nights alone without his hand to hold. When the twins finally arrived, she held them with tears streaming down her cheeks, tears of joy, but also of dread. Would Ethan understand? Would he forgive her for keeping this from him for so long? Hours later, Ethan's sleek black car rolled up the long driveway of their estate. The gates opened automatically, revealing the sprawling mansion surrounded by blooming gardens. It looked the same as when he left, but to Ethan, it felt like stepping into a dream. He barely let the driver park before he leapt out, his heart pounding. The front door opened, and there stood Sophia, her dark curls falling over her shoulders, her figure slightly fuller than he remembered but radiating a glow he couldn't place. "Sophia," he breathed, crossing the distance in long strides. "Ethan," she whispered, her eyes shining with emotion. They embraced tightly, months of distance dissolving in that one moment. He buried his face in her hair, inhaling the familiar scent of lavender. "I missed you more than words can say." "I missed you too," she murmured, her voice trembling. He pulled back slightly, cupping her face in his hands. "Something's different. You look radiant." Sophia's lips parted, as if to speak, but a small cry echoed from inside the house. Ethan froze. His brows furrowed. Was that? Sophia turned, her heart thudding in her chest. "Ethan, there's something you need to see." She led him into the house, her steps slow, her pulse racing. They entered the nursery, where two bassinets stood side by side. The cries grew louder until Sophia gently lifted each infant, one in each arm. Ethan stopped in the doorway, his world tilting. His mouth fell open as he stared at the sight of his wife holding two babies. Twins. His twins. For a long moment, silence reigned. Ethan's face shifted between disbelief, awe, and something unreadable. Sophia's voice was soft but steady. Ethan, meet your children. If you were in Ethan's shoes, returning home after a year to discover not one, but two children you never knew existed, what would your first reaction be? Joy? Shock? Anger? Thought balloons. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, staring at Sophia with two tiny bundles in her arms. His mind, trained to calculate billion-dollar deals and anticipate market shifts, refused to process the sight. Twins. Two babies with soft features, button noses, and delicate cries that pierced through the silence of the mansion. He blinked once, twice, as if the scene might dissolve if he looked away. But it didn't. His wife, his Sophia, was cradling two infants who bore unmistakable traces of him. Ethan. Sophia's voice trembled, her arms tightening protectively around the children. Please come closer. Slowly, as though moving through fog, Ethan stepped into the nursery. His eyes darted to the bassinets, the stuffed animals, the mobile hanging above, an entire world built without him. His chest ached with 100 emotions he couldn't name. When were you going to tell me? His voice cracked, harsher than he intended. Sophia flinched, tears springing to her eyes. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But every time I thought of calling you, I pictured your face, your stress, the endless hours you were working. I didn't want to add to your burden. Ethan's jaw tightened. So instead you decided to let me walk through that door today blind? To meet my children like this? The word children caught in his throat, raw and unfamiliar. He stared at the babies again, and something inside him twisted painfully. He was a father. For an entire year, he had been a father without knowing. Sophia's voice broke the silence. I thought I could hold out until you came home. I wanted us to experience it together, in person. I didn't want our children's story to begin on a grainy video call thousands of miles apart. Ethan turned, pacing the room, his hand dragging through his hair. Do you have any idea what it feels like, Sophia? To know I missed their birth? Their first cries? Their first smiles? His voice rose, thick with anguish. I wasn't there, and not because I didn't want to be, but because you didn't tell me. Sophia's tears spilled freely now, dripping onto the soft blankets swaddling the twins. I know. And I'm sorry. Every day I regretted not telling you. But then the weeks turned into months, and fear kept me silent. I thought maybe I could make it perfect when you came home. Her words hit him like a blow. Perfect? This felt anything but. Ethan moved closer, his eyes locked on the babies. He reached out, hesitated, then finally touched the boy's tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled instinctively around his, and something inside Ethan cracked open. My God, he whispered, his eyes blurring. He's so small. Sophia's breath hitched, relief flickering in her chest. She gently offered the boy to Ethan, who cradled him with trembling arms. The baby's warmth seeped into his skin, grounding him. I missed it, Ethan murmured, his voice breaking. All of it. I should have been here. Sophia reached out, touching his arm. You're here now. That's what matters. But Ethan's gaze snapped to her, pain simmering beneath his eyes. Does it? Or have you already built this life without me? The words cut Sophia to the bone. Don't say that. I built this life for us. For you. For them. That night, the mansion was anything but quiet. Ethan sat in the nursery long after Sophia had fallen asleep, watching the twins breathe softly in their bassinets. His heart swelled with fierce love for them, but bitterness gnawed at him too. He had always dreamed of being a father. His own father, a cold businessman, had never shown him affection. Ethan vowed he would be different, that when he had children, he would be present, loving, involved. And now, his worst fear had come true. He had already missed so much. When Sophia entered the nursery hours later, she found him still sitting there, his eyes shadowed. Ethan, she whispered. Come to bed. He shook his head. I don't know if I can. Her heart cracked. Please don't shut me out. I'm trying to understand, he said, his voice low. But part of me feels betrayed. And I don't know how to just switch that off. Sophia knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she clasped his. I never meant to betray you. I was scared, Ethan. I was alone. And when I held them for the first time, all I could think was, how can I ever explain this to him without breaking his heart? Ethan's chest tightened. He looked at her, at the tears streaking her face, at the exhaustion carved into her features from months of raising 2 infants on her own. And despite his anger, love for her surged inside him. You should have trusted me, he whispered. I know, she breathed. And I will never forgive myself for not doing so. But I need you to trust that I love you. That I wanted you here more than anything. Silence stretched between them, heavy but tender. Finally, Ethan's shoulders slumped. He pulled Sophia into his arms, holding her tightly as if to anchor himself. I don't know how we're going to fix this, he murmured into her hair. But I do know one thing, I don't want to lose you. Or them. Sophia clung to him, sobbing softly. Then don't. Stay. We can figure it out together. Ethan pressed his lips to her forehead, his voice fierce despite the tears in his eyes. I'll never leave again. Not for a year, not for a month, not for a day longer than I have to. This is where I belong. If you were Ethan, would you forgive Sophia for keeping the twins a secret until your return, or would the sense of betrayal be too much to overcome? Thought balloons, share your honest thoughts in the comments. The following week was a whirlwind. Ethan had always been a man of precision. His schedule was ruled by calendars, flights, and conference calls. But in the Montgomery mansion, precision was replaced by unpredictability. The twins, Daniel and Lily, were on their own schedule, feeding at dawn, crying in the middle of the night, smiling without warning. Ethan, unused to the chaos of fatherhood, found himself stumbling through sleepless nights, formula bottles, and diaper changes that tested even his steady hands. One evening, as he fumbled with a bottle, Sophia leaned against the doorway, watching him with soft eyes. You're getting better, she teased. Ethan shot her a tired smile. Better? He nearly drowned in milk 5 minutes ago. Sophia laughed quietly, crossing the room to adjust the bottle in his hands. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment, the tension between them melted. They were just 2 parents learning together, side by side. But the peace was fragile. At a family dinner later that week, Ethan's mother, Margaret, made her opinion brutally clear. I cannot believe, she said sharply, her pearl necklace glinting under the chandelier, that you thought it wise to hide a pregnancy from Ethan for an entire year. Do you realize what people will say about our family? About his reputation. Sophia stiffened, her cheeks flushing. It wasn't about reputation. It was about love. I wanted Ethan to know in person. Margaret scoffed. Love? Love doesn't justify lies. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mother, that's enough. But Margaret pressed on, her voice dripping with disdain. You've already caused enough damage, Sophia. Don't think this family will forget it so easily. Sophia excused herself from the table, tears burning her eyes. Ethan followed her moments later, finding her in the garden under the starlight. Don't listen to her, he said gently. Sophia shook her head. But she's right, Ethan. I kept something from you. I lied by omission. And now everyone sees me as the woman who betrayed her husband. Ethan cupped her face, his eyes soft. You're the mother of my children. That's what matters. Not what anyone else thinks. But even as he said the words, doubt gnawed at him. If his mother saw Sophia as untrustworthy, what about the rest of the world? What about his business partners? Those doubts came crashing down days later in the boardroom. Ethan sat at the head of the long oak table, the twins' faint cries still echoing in his mind from the morning. Around him, his executives shifted uncomfortably as one of them, a gray-haired man named Richard, cleared his throat. Ethan, with all due respect, Richard said, your focus seems divided. Investors are asking questions. Rumors are circulating about your wife, about the twins. Some are suggesting they may not even be yours. The words struck Ethan like a blade. Not mine, he repeated, his voice low and dangerous. Richard raised his hands. I don't believe it, of course. But perception matters. And right now, perception is hurting the company. Ethan's hands curled into fists on the table. My family is not up for discussion. Anyone who questions my loyalty to them questions me. And I won't tolerate it. The room fell silent. But the seed of suspicion had been planted, and Ethan knew whispers traveled faster than truth. That night, when he returned home, Sophia sensed the storm in his eyes. "What happened?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then sighed heavily. "They're questioning if the twins are mine." Sophia's face drained of color. "What? That's absurd." "I know it is," Ethan said, pacing the room. "But business thrives on image. And right now, ours is under attack." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. Do you believe them? Even for a second?" Ethan froze. The question pierced deeper than he expected. Did he? The thought alone made him sick. He turned to her, his expression pained. "I want to say no. I want to say I trust you completely. But Sophia, you kept this from me for so long. And now the world is asking questions I should never have to answer." Sophia's chest tightened as if a fist had wrapped around her heart. "So you don't trust me?" "I'm trying," Ethan said, his voice raw. "I'm trying to trust you. But I need you to help me. I need you to be honest with me, always." Sophia stepped closer, her eyes blazing with tears. "I was alone, Ethan. Alone. I carried them, I birthed them, I raised them, while you were half a world away. And I never stopped loving you. Not once. If you can't see that, then what are we even fighting for?" The silence that followed was deafening. The breaking point came days later when a tabloid ran a cruel headline. "Sophia Montgomery, faithful wife or secret scandal?" Paparazzi swarmed outside the estate, cameras flashing as Sophia tried to take the twins for a walk. Their cries echoed in the air as strangers shouted vile questions. Ethan rushed outside, shielding his family with his arms, his voice booming, "Enough! Leave them alone." The crowd eventually dispersed, but Sophia's spirit was shaken. That night, as she rocked Lily to sleep, she whispered, "Maybe your father would be better off without us." Ethan overheard. His chest clenched, fury and fear surging inside him. He stormed into the nursery, his eyes blazing. "Don't you ever say that again," he growled, his voice thick with emotion. "You are my family. You, Daniel, Lily, nothing else matters. Not the company, not the headlines, not the whispers. You are everything." Sophia looked up at him, tears streaking her cheeks. "Then prove it. Don't just protect us when the cameras are flashing. Choose us. Always." Ethan sank to his knees before her, pressing his forehead against hers. "I will. I swear it. But you have to promise me the same." Sophia's voice trembled. "I promise." And for the first time, despite the chaos swirling around them, they both felt the fragile beginnings of healing. If you were Sophia, would you be able to forgive Ethan's lingering doubts, or would you see them as proof that love wasn't enough? Thought balloons, share your thoughts in the comments below. The storm had been brewing for weeks, but when it finally hit, it struck like lightning. One morning, Ethan woke to dozens of missed calls. His phone buzzed relentlessly, headlines screaming across the screen. DNA scandal rocks Montgomery empire. Are the Montgomery twins truly heirs? Someone had leaked that Ethan had never publicly confirmed paternity. Investors were panicking. Stock prices trembled. And in the center of it all, Sophia was painted as a schemer who had trapped her husband with children that weren't his. Ethan stormed into his office, fists clenched. "Who did this?" he barked at his assistant. "We don't know yet, sir," she stammered. "But the board is calling an emergency meeting. They want answers. Answers. Proof." And all Ethan could think was how Sophia's tearful face would look when he told her the world didn't believe her children were his. At home, Sophia was already crumbling. She sat in the nursery, clutching Daniel against her chest as Lily whimpered in the crib. Her phone rang endlessly with reporters demanding comments. Messages poured in, some sympathetic, most cruel. When Ethan walked in, his face hard, her heart sank. "You saw the news," she whispered. "I did." His voice was flat, unreadable. Sophia searched his eyes, desperate for reassurance. "Tell me you don't believe them." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I don't want to. But the board, the investors, they're demanding a DNA test. They want proof the twins are mine." Sophia's breath hitched as though he had struck her. "Proof? Ethan, look at them. Look at their eyes, their hair, their smiles. They're yours. How could you even think? It's not about what I think, he snapped, his voice breaking with anger and helplessness. It's about what the world thinks. And right now, the world doesn't believe us. Sophia rose to her feet, her whole body trembling. No, Ethan. This isn't about the world. This is about you. Do you trust me or don't you? The silence between them was deafening. Ethan's lips parted, but no words came. And that silence shattered Sophia's heart. Her voice shook, raw with pain. After everything I went through alone, the pregnancy, the fear, the sleepless nights, the birth, you still doubt me. Sophia. No, she cut him off, tears streaming down her face. I carried your children while you chased deals across the ocean. I prayed every night for you to come home. And when I finally wanted to tell you, I thought I was protecting your heart. Instead, all I did was destroy mine. Because the man I love doesn't even believe in me anymore. Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. Ethan stood frozen, torn between his fury at the world and the devastation in her voice. He wanted to hold her, to promise her everything would be okay. But the truth lodged in his throat. Part of him still wrestled with doubt. The breaking point came at the board meeting. Ethan sat at the head of the long table, executives glaring at him, shareholders on video calls demanding clarity. Mr. Montgomery, Richard began coldly, until you provide DNA confirmation, investors will assume the worst. We can't risk the company's stability on scandal. Ethan's knuckles whitened against the table. He thought of Sophia's broken voice, the way she had begged him to trust her. He thought of Daniel's tiny fingers curling around his hand, of Lily's soft laugh when he rocked her. And suddenly, he saw it clearly. This wasn't about business. It wasn't about stock prices. It was about love. I don't need a DNA test, Ethan said firmly, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Those children are mine. And if this company can't survive the truth that I trust my wife, then maybe it's not worth running. Gasps filled the room. Richard gaped. You'd risk your empire for her? Ethan stood, his voice unshakable. I'd risk everything for her. Because without Sophia, without my children, all of this, he gestured around the opulent boardroom, means nothing. He drove home that evening with his decision burning in his chest. When he walked through the front door, Sophia sat in the living room, her eyes red from crying. She looked up startled, as he crossed the room and dropped to his knees in front of her. I told them, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I told them you and the twins are my life. That I don't need tests or papers to prove it. Sophia's eyes widened, tears brimming. You did. Yes. He grasped her hands tightly. Because I realized the only proof I need is in front of me. Daniel's laugh. Lily's eyes. Your love. I trust you, Sophia. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it, but I do. I trust you with everything I am. Her sob broke into a laugh of relief, and she threw her arms around him, clinging as though she'd never let go. I love you, Ethan, she cried into his shoulder. I love you too, he whispered fiercely. And I swear, I will never doubt you again. In that moment, the storm that had threatened to tear them apart finally broke, not in destruction, but in renewal. If you were Ethan, would you risk your career and empire to stand by Sophia publicly, or would you choose to protect your business first? Thought balloons, share your thoughts in the comments. The storm had passed, but rebuilding after it was another battle entirely. The morning after Ethan's declaration at the board meeting, the Montgomery mansion was quiet, sunlight spilling softly across the nursery. Sophia sat in the rocking chair, Lily cradled against her chest, humming a gentle lullaby. Ethan leaned against the doorway, watching. For the first time in months, peace settled in his chest. It wasn't the fragile kind that could shatter with a phone call, it was solid, steady. Beautiful, he whispered. Sophia looked up, startled. What is? You, Ethan said, stepping closer. You with them. It's everything I ever wanted, and I almost let fear ruin it. Her eyes softened. But you didn't. You fought for us. That's what matters now. He knelt beside her, kissing Lily's tiny forehead before meeting Sophia's gaze. I don't care what the world says anymore. I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that you and our twins are my first priority. Sophia's heart swelled. She had waited so long to hear those words, and now that they were here, they healed wounds she thought might never close. Of course, the world didn't heal overnight. For weeks, newspapers ran speculation about Ethan's bold stand at the board meeting. Investors threatened to pull out, but something surprising happened too. Ordinary people admired him. Finally, one article read, "A billionaire who values his family over his fortune." Public support began to swell. And though Richard and a few board members still grumbled, Ethan took a radical step. He began restructuring the company. Montgomery Enterprises will not be built on fear or scandal, he announced in a press conference. It will be built on values, on loyalty, trust, and integrity. If that scares investors, so be it. I'd rather lead a smaller empire that stands for something than a vast one built on lies. The world watched in shock. For the first time, Ethan wasn't just a wealthy man chasing profits. He was a leader with a heart. The hardest part came at a Sunday family dinner. His parents sat stiffly at the table, his mother's lips pressed thin, his father silent. For months, they had harbored doubts, their silence wounding Sophia deeply. But as the twins cooed in their high chairs, something changed. Ethan's mother reached for Lily, lifting her carefully into her arms. The baby giggled, tugging at her pearl necklace. "She has your eyes, Ethan," his mother said softly, emotion cracking her voice. "And your stubbornness," Sophia teased gently. For the first time, Ethan's mother laughed. "Perhaps." She looked at Sophia then, her expression softening. "I owe you an apology, my dear. I let my doubts hurt you. But looking at them now, I see what I should have known all along. You are family. And family deserves trust." Sophia's eyes welled with tears. She nodded, too choked up to speak. His father cleared his throat, finally breaking his silence. "You've made us proud, son. Not for saving the company, but for saving your marriage." Ethan swallowed hard, emotion gripping him. That night, as his parents kissed the twins goodnight, the heaviness that had haunted their family finally began to lift. Life settled into a new rhythm. Ethan, once buried in meetings and travel, now made breakfast on weekends. He wore spit-up-stained shirts proudly as badges of honor. Board members blinked in disbelief when he excused himself mid-call to sing Daniel back to sleep. Sophia thrived too. With Ethan's full support, she began painting again, filling the house with vibrant colors and joy. Sometimes Ethan would find her in the studio, Lily on her lap, paintbrush in hand, humming softly. Those were the moments he treasured most. Not the awards, not the headlines, but the quiet, ordinary magic of family life. One night, after the twins had finally drifted off, Ethan and Sophia lay curled together on the couch. "You know," Ethan murmured, brushing her hair back, "I used to think success was about deals, numbers, and headlines. But now, it's about this. You, them, us." Sophia smiled, her head resting against his chest. "That's all I ever wanted." And for once, they both knew, this was a promise that would hold. Their journey hadn't been easy. Doubt had poisoned trust, pride had nearly destroyed love, and the world had tested their bond. But in the end, Ethan learned that no empire, no fortune, no success was worth more than the family he had almost lost. Sophia learned that love, though bruised by doubt, could heal when two hearts chose to fight for it together. And the twins, innocent, radiant, became living proof that miracles often come in pairs, and that even in life's storms, joy finds a way to bloom. Ethan chose love over wealth, trust over fear, and family over fortune. Two hearts. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without subscribing to the channel. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because every week, we share powerful stories like this one that remind us what truly matters in life. And now I'll ask you, would you choose your empire or your family? Comment below.